Yo, what up? Welcome to another episode of the Oakland Warriors podcast. I'm Patrick, and today, again, because it's Warriors Christmas, I'm here with my good friend, Aram in Toronto. What's up, Aram?
Hello. It's like 12 weeks of Warriors Christmas or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. I think Warriors Christmas I'm paying more attention to Warriors Christmas than I am to the finals, but I actually do have to say that I watched my first 2021 finals game, which was game 5, and that was a good game.
It's a really good game.
I'll be honest, I watched the first quarter and then I shut it off because the Suns were way ahead. They had like a 14, 16 point lead or something. And then I went on my Warriors Twitter, and Andrew Bogut had tweeted about how the Bucks were up by 3 at halftime, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna tune in." And so I had it like on DVR or whatever, and it was all recorded. So I just watched it trailing the whole time, and I didn't catch up until the final minute, so I couldn't like jump ahead. It was just like I was seeing.
Oh, that's perfect timing. It's like as if you planned it, you know?
Yeah. Because there's tons of commercials, so you can catch up that way, and halftime is kind of trash. But yeah, I got to say that I was leaning Suns before the series started, and I'm pretty much Milwaukee Bucks all the way at this point.
What made you change your mind?
A few factors. A couple things. Those Phoenix Suns fans on TV, did you see the dude who was like counting off $100 bills for when Giannis was taking time, and the whole arena was counting because there's that whole thing that the Atlanta fans did, counting because he takes so long, and they just kept the camera trained a few times, a few different trips to the foul line on this dude who was like counting $100 bills, and I was like, okay,
what was he doing with them?
Nothing. He was just counting them, and it's like showing him once, that's kind of weird, but showing him like 2, 3, 4 times, I was like, I'm really, really kind of sick of this. And those Phoenix fans, they just look angry, you know? They look really intense and stuff. But that might change because when they play Milwaukee next, I might watch that game and I might think that Milwaukee fans look kind of angry. But I mean, all joking aside, I think it's largely because I'm impressed by Giannis.
Yeah.
He showed up. He had that hyperextension, and he's from afar. I was like looking at the stat lines, and I was like, "Dang, he's kind of dominating."
He's really taken on. He's really figured out what he needs to do in this series. It seems like a lot fewer, hey, I'll take a 3 for the heck of it, which he was doing in earlier seasons, and it's just like just stop. And part of it is Phoenix doesn't have much size to match up with him, so he's taking it down low, and it's like playing the game and playing the game at another level almost. And I think that's really cool to see when somebody who's already an MVP goes through this playoff testing and takes their game up another level. And I think you're seeing that now, and it's just a lot more efficient. It's a lot more fun to watch, and it's kind of like emblematic of the Bucks being the Bucks, because they're winning, and it just always feels they're winning despite themselves. That the talent of the players is pushing through the things that are holding them back, and what's holding them back is often themselves. But, to be fair, that's part of the challenge, right? And that's the challenge that a lot of teams have to fight through is you're not just playing your opponent, but you're playing your own limitations, I guess. If you think about the early years of the Warriors against like the Memphis team, like how are they going to do this? Like they didn't know how they were going to do it. And so maybe this is the Bucks figuring out how they're going to do it. And it's going to be Middleton taking all the late shot clock shots. It's going to be Giannis taking it down low. It's going to be Bud just getting out of the way a little bit more, and Drew just hounding people continuously. So it's been fun to watch, and I think part of because they've been on the scene for the last few years and just like so many disappointments, it's nice to see somebody breaking through. And Giannis seems like a good dude. So and that block the other night and that alley oop last night were incredible. And you just live to see those kinds of things in a game, especially at this level.
Yeah, that alley oop, that was one of the more entertaining plays I've seen in a game where it's not the Warriors. Just the fact that like Booker, he tried to be the man in the moment.
Yes.
He should have taken that first shot when Tucker was just on him at the elbow, but he kept driving, and then he turns around and Drew Holiday's just right there. Nothing's worse than ending up like flat on your face at the end of a game like that. And then another thing that actually makes me want to pull for the Bucks. I've always disliked Chris Paul, but during these playoffs, I've actually kind of wanted him to win. My disdain for Chris Paul was outweighed by my disdain for other teams. But apparently, just from what I've read, he's been playing his Chris Paul tricks, and that
Yeah.
push on Giannis on that alley oop. If Giannis didn't land properly,
Yeah.
he's just so big, right? He maintained like his verticality, and then just let go of the rim because he's so adept at dunking, I guess. A lot of guys would like swing, right? And then
Yeah.
maybe land on an elbow or a tailbone or something like that. And it was kind of a non-issue, but it was a little cheap, you know? He pushed him basically in the hip and the crotch or the stomach or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that. And I get it. He probably wasn't playing dirty, but in his mind, he was like, I'm going to try to stop this ball from going. There's nothing else I can do except try to, maybe I'll get a flagrant, but the ball's not going to go in. But it went in and he hit the free
I
throw.
I
Did he hit
mean,
the free throw?
no, he didn't. I think that was the one where he missed it really badly and he tipped it back out to Middleton. But
Yes, and that was actually a really, really good tip. Right when he tipped it, I was like, dang, that looked very intentional. He knew roughly where Middleton
yeah,
was,
he totally
and
did. But it's
because he
also
didn't
like
want to shoot any more free throws.
and if he tipped it too far, it would have been an open layup, right?
Right. Yeah, if Middleton had cut to the lane, then it's just free. Oh, that would have been fascinating. Yeah.
Anyway. But Chris Paul's interesting because there's been so many times where he's had these playoff flameouts, and in some cases it's been injuries. But talk about like somebody getting in their own way, and the thing is, he had a great game, and he had great assist to turnover ratio. He shot well, but it's just like these things that he can't break through, and I don't know what that's all about. And maybe it just comes down to, it's hard to win a championship and it's hard to play at this level. So especially for a high level player, I've been really liking seeing Drew Holiday play. He had a really good bounce back game, but his defense has been incredible. The size and the strength that he has to get through screens, like they just can't get him off. They can't get him off easily. And it just shows, you never know what those trades are going to do, those kind of all-in trades, how they're going to work out. But from series to series, it's felt like, oh, I don't know about that trade for Drew Holiday. And then this one, you see him playing his defense like this, it's like totally worth it.
Beginning of the season, when they made that trade, I was like, well, I guess Giannis is never winning a title because everybody talked about how good Drew Holiday is. And he is great. He's a very good player, but he's not upper echelon point guard. And I just felt that the Bucks were cycling through kind of, they weren't getting a solid supporting cast around Giannis. But again, it just goes to show you that you don't know what can happen, and health matters, right?
Yeah.
And health of Giannis matters. Like if he wasn't able to bounce back from that hyperextended knee, then none of this is even close to happening. It's like a sweep, right? And it's also interesting because I kind of thought that Milwaukee was just done, right? They weren't going to make the moves to get over the top, and just this weird ass playoff season. It's it's like whoa, like shit can happen. And also, I was going to say like it feels like these two teams. I could be wrong, but it feels like these two teams are frantically trying to win because they know how hard it's going to be next year when everybody gets more time for the playoffs, where
Yeah.
there will likely be fewer injuries to star players, and the Warriors will be back in. The Nuggets will probably have Jamal Murray back for the
Maybe.
playoffs. We'll see. I don't know, but uh,
It
and
has been weird. It has been a weird playoffs for sure. And you look at this matchup, it's been good, and maybe it's been good because that they're kind of grinding this out. They're not uh whoever wins is not going to be considered like are they amongst the best teams to have ever won the championship. Like it's not going to be
never, yeah.
considered that. They're not going to be one of those teams. And I mean, this is just this long tail of COVID effects, and we'll see how it affects next season, I guess, too. But what I'm interested in, kind of in the Drew Holiday vein, and then also this kind of the effects of this finals, because I think every finals influences the next one. Or you could say that to a certain degree. I think last year a lot of teams were like, "Oh, we got to get big," because the Lakers got big and it worked. And then this year, let's say, I mean, the Bucks look pretty good. I think they've really taken the Suns out of what they can do. Let's just say the Bucks win, and what is the lesson from it? And I think that towards this idea of the Drew Holiday trade, it's the idea of like pushing your chips in, going all in. And like you said, yeah, I think it felt like, oh, that's the best they could do, and kind of like a half measured attempt to upgrade their roster. But if they win a championship, it's all worth it. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm curious about how this is going to influence how teams think about the off season, and specifically the team that we like talking about, the Warriors. So, I wanted to see if you were down to do some role playing. Okay, so some Bob Myers role play,
I'll
and
have to
that
ask my girlfriend.
okay. Ew. Uh, I didn't mean it like that.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm Joe Lacob, and I just watched the NBA Finals. We got to do this, Bob. We got to do this. We got to push all of our chips in. We've got to do it. We owe it to Steph, Clay, and Dre. I don't think he actually thinks that way. I think he wants to have like he wants to draft and develop, and like organizations win championships, quote unquote. Like I think he wants to think that. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, because it's draft season and I think trades often orbit around the draft. Let's say Lacob has looked at what the Bucks did, an all-in trade. We owe it to these guys to try to win another championship. And so there's a few high-level all-star, all NBA players who seem like they're available. So Bob,
Mm-hmm.
this is the mandate from ownership. I'd like you to go get player X. All right. So you're gonna be Bob Myers in this.
Okay.
So you
I
have
haven't worked on my impression. Your impression of Lacob is not bad. Not
that's
bad.
all I know. Bob Myers is like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Let me see if I can do Bob Myers. Well, it's a really tough question. I don't really have an answer for that. We're all human beings.
Yes. And the greatest human being is Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant.
Oh man.
Okay,
Bob,
let's.
I wish you could have. Bob, take that back. He's
Okay.
fine. He's fine, but it wasn't worth it. So you're gonna be Bob Myers. I'm gonna see what are you willing to give up. You
Mhm.
have to make these trades, Bob.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Joe told you to make the deal.
Okay.
Um,
Gotcha. Let's do it.
and then, but you can tell me how much you'd push back to fight Lacob about it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Totally.
and then you can tell me how likely you think this scenario is. Okay,
Sure.
so I'm the Clippers GM, Lawrence Frank or whatever. Okay,
Mhm.
you know, Bob, we Kawhi's out this next year. We wanna refresh. We want to refresh our roster. Steve's given us the go ahead. Are you interested in Paul George? And yes, you are,
Yes,
because
I
Joe told
am.
you.
Even though I'm not, but yes, I am.
So the basics of this, Bob, I need Wiseman, I need the 2 picks, and we need to do Wiggins to make the salaries work, and a future first.
That's a tough one because if Lacob wants me to do this, I will say, what if I just say, I'll give you Wiggins? I'll give you Wiggins. I'll give you two firsts and the two picks. No Wiseman.
No. It's got to be Wiseman. I'll give you Zubac.
Okay, then I will give you Wiggins, Wiseman, the two picks, and a first. I'll do it. I'll do it.
Okay. All right. So that's our first one. Okay. Actually, how about this? Joe says get the best deal, not you have to make the deal. Joe has told you to get the best deal to get us in championship contention. And so I'm changing it a little bit midstream. Okay, here's the next trade. So that was pretty good. That was pretty
But
good. So
but
you
but do I like that trade?
does
Uh,
Patrick like that trade?
I'm not a huge Paul George fan, but he impressed me in the playoffs,
He did, yeah.
and he still has something there. I don't think the Clippers make that trade, but also I don't think they look to move him. But also, I think that especially if you get Zubac, if you get him, that's not bad. I mean, getting two
It's not bad.
guys on a playoff team, and Zubac is still young, so may not be a building block per se, but Paul George being a little bit younger, maybe 30-ish or so, that keeps the window open. Even though I like homegrown talent, that would not necessarily be a bad trade. And if the future first is relatively soon, that's fine. They'll get some ring
Yeah.
chasers too.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you would have to throw in Poole in that or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so you would make that trade, and you think it's not bad. Okay, Patrick thinks it's not bad. Okay, here's the next one. I don't know who the 76ers GM is right now. Do you know who it is? It's they replace. Oh, it's Daryl
It's a
Morey, of
Mort.
course,
Yeah.
of course. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I don't. Okay, let's see. All right, Ben Simmons to the Warriors. Bob, are you
Okay.
interested?
No, but I could take him off your hands if he'll take 7 and 14.
Well, we got to make the salaries work, so you have to give
Take
me
Wiggins
Wiggins.
too.
I'm gonna hang up the phone. This is not a good match.
What do you
Um,
want? I'll give you Poole.
this would have to be some kind of 3-way deal, to be honest. Like Wiseman would have to be the upside here. I think Simmons. Sorry, I'm still Daryl Morey here. Simmons is way better than Wiggins. He's got all defensive potential. He's a star. I need something back, and Wiggins is not enough. That's just salary ballast. So I need the picks. I need Poole, and I'll reroute Wiseman for somebody who's ready for me now. So
I
basically, Maury's saying Paul George is the same level as Ben Simmons. He's younger. He's a great defender, ball mover. Maybe you can fix him with that California weather.
yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. But oh man, Lacob keeps texting me. He still wants me to make this deal if I can.
Bob, you got to get the best deal.
The
Is this
best
your
deal.
best deal so far?
Let's see. So you as Daryl Morey are asking to get a third team involved, but me as Bob Myers, I'd be getting Ben Simmons, losing Wiseman, Poole, Wiggins, two picks,
Yeah, and maybe I'll give you like one of these young dudes, not Tybal, but the little guy.
Maxi,
Yeah, I'll give you that.
I really don't like this. I really don't like it.
Okay, all right. So
Can I hang up in this in
yeah,
this
you can hang up.
segment?
You can hang up. It's not.
All
You
right.
don't think it's the best deal.
All right, screw you, Maury. Click. I didn't want Simmons anyway.
All right. This is the one. This is one that I think probably I feel like might be the most likely. I don't know. Okay, Bradley Beal. I don't know who the Wizards GM is, but you know what? It's not working out. We we have a young coach. Wes Unseld Jr. He's good at developing young talent. Um, they're all going to learn from Russ how to be a pro, and so we want to build the future of the Wizards. So I'll give you Bradley Beal for Wiseman, Wiggins to make the salary work. Again, 7 and 14, rounded out with some other pieces, but that's the basis of it.
Me as Bob Myers, I personally really, really believe in James Wiseman, but I really like that Bradley Beal is 26 years old, I believe. He's going to be playing the Olympics, which usually gives a boost to all players.
I think he's out for
And
COVID.
oh, you're right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, but he had the Olympic experience, maybe the
Well,
training camp.
at least that guarantees that he won't get hurt in the Olympics.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that is not bad. Not bad because I can see getting Beal, even though he's only 6'3", he plays a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
And I feel like we could get some free agent ring chasers with that. And it would allow Clay to not have to chase around so many smaller dudes. You'd have to play small forward. But I think I could do that. I think I could do that deal.
Okay, so we have a yes there. So yes, Paul George, no Ben Simmons, yes, Bradley Beal. Okay, next.
Even though Patrick does not want to do that.
Okay, well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that next. Okay,
all
Bob.
Right.
It's Masai Ujiri calling from Toronto.
Click.
But you don't even know the deal yet.
All right.
It's Pascal Siakam. You know, Bob, we want to we're looking towards the future. We love Wiggins. He's a hometown boy. It's time for him to come home. We'll give you Pascal Siakam for Wiseman, Wiggins, 7 and 14. We'll throw in Chris Boucher or something like that. Or Aaron Baines. I'll give you Aaron Baines.
No, I don't want Siakam. Give me the number 4. Throw in the number 4 pick and we have a deal.
Maybe there's somebody they really like. Maybe they like Kuminga and he drops to 7 and they get him anyway. So I could see that. There would probably have to be a little bit more. You would need to give me like Poole or a future pick swap or something like that. So no. So Bob says no, but counters with number 4. Okay. I like that. I like a pick swap. Yeah, 7 for 4. 7 for 4. I mean, I might think about that if I'm Bob.
Yeah, I think if you throw in the number 4, that's heavily weighted towards the Warriors. To me, if you don't even begin to negotiate with the number 4, to me that's
so. Do you not want you don't want Siakam because why?
He's injured. He's not a real star. We give up too much. Wiggins' fit is proven, even though Siakam is a better player, and Siakam just isn't enough to give up that many pieces, that many assets. I would rather roll into next season with Wiggins, Wiseman, Bouknight, and Davion Mitchell, even though Patrick doesn't want Davion Mitchell. You know what I'm saying?
I can't tell who's talking as who now. Was that Bob talking or was that Patrick? I don't know.
That was Bob.
Okay. Me talking as Aram. if it was number 4 was involved, I would really think about that.
Yeah,
Uh,
totally.
yeah. Okay. Now this one is interesting because we've seen this is the next one. We've seen a lot of reports and some saying he's asking for a trade, and then you see another headline, I didn't ask for a trade, and then you read the article, it's like, but I might, and it's Damian Lillard.
Yeah, I will give you Andrew Wiggins for Damian
No way. No way.
Lillard.
I'm Neil Oshie, and I've already taken a PR hit. I can't afford to trade our best player ever in franchise history for.
Yeah, Neil, it's just he's a local guy. Bring him home, or at least across the bay from home, and he's a great top 10 talent, but just the fit just isn't that great. Like for what you'd want, it just doesn't really make sense.
All right, Patrick, what do you think? Is it a no for you as well?
That it's a no for me. I was on
Yeah,
Twitter when this was being talked about, and people saying what the Warriors could give up for Dame, and I'm like, I don't want that. I don't
yeah,
want that. Like
yeah,
he's 31 years old. He is. It's not about. We know this from so many Olympic teams that some of those dream teams that didn't fare so well. It's not about throwing just the best guys out there. It's about the roles, the chemistry, all that jazz. And I just don't think it's worth it because you'd have to give up so much more than Wiggins, Wiseman, 714
yeah.
to get Dame Lillard. And I just don't think that's worth it, especially when they're all going to phase out kind of at the same time.
Yep, I agree. He's an amazing player. Love watching him play. I also don't want to throw shade, but it's also why haven't his teams done better? And it's not solely just his responsibility, but he's not a great defender. You'd have a tiny backcourt. I don't know that the fit is difficult, and I really doubt he would want to play for the Warriors.
Yeah.
I think he would want to go like New York or something like that, and he has the power to make that happen, right? To steer where this is going to go. So
I personally would love to see Dame go to New York because he's been so overlooked by casuals and by the majority of NBA fans for so long who just started picking up on him the last like few years, right? And to get in Madison Square Garden and the spotlight, I would love to see him in that, thrive in that,
yeah,
just
it'd be
for the
fun.
hell of it, and then send him eastward. That would be
Yeah,
helpful for us.
so that's a no. All right, now this is not somebody. It's not quite in the tier of these other players, but um, so yeah, it's not exactly the same package. Zach LaVine. This is me speaking as me. He's got 1 year left on his deal.
How
I
much does he
mean,
make?
he makes 18 or 19. Um, so I mean, sorry,
Would I get
this is
his
not.
bird rights?
You would, I believe. I mean, am I crazy to think that you could you could do a sign and trade for Oubre and 714 for Zach LaVine? It's not going to do it. I don't think that's going to do it. But salary wise, it would work. I
Ooh, that
think.
is. I mean, if I'm the Warriors, I 100% do that deal. I think Levine has gotten a little bit better on defense, and it would just be great to have that firepower. So, would I basically trade, in my mind, 714, who in my best case scenario is Book Knight and Zaire Williams, for Zach LaVine? Yeah, I'd do that. I would totally do that, 100%.
What if it was Oubre, Poole, and 7 and 14 for Zach LaVine?
Hmm.
Just because I'm thinking like, oh, the
The
Bulls
Bulls would
probably
want.
want somebody who not just, I mean, Oubre's Oubre, but they probably want,
Yeah, I would do
somebody
that.
who's ball
I would do
dominant.
that.
Yeah.
I think I would
Okay.
do that because I like Poole, but LaVine can give you a lot more in terms of
I'm
offense.
just adding Poole in just so I don't sound like an idiot who they're like who it's like there's no way they would do Oubre first. Just,
Yeah, I know.
so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge Zach LaVine fan, but if you're giving him basically to me for 7 and 14, and then Poole, sure, I could throw in Poole just for the hell of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would also do this. Yeah, the fit is weird, but he's a shot maker. Like he's an incredible shot maker. The Warriors could use that.
Who's playing small forward?
Oh, you still have Wiggins in this situation.
Oh my gosh! So who's coming off the bench?
I don't know. That's Steve's problem.
You're paying somebody $30 million to come off the bench.
Yeah, it's either Clay or LaVine.
Or Wiggins.
Or small ball.
Or it's Wiggins, and then, you go small ball, or Wiseman plays well. I mean, honestly, if you can keep Wiseman and then get Zach LaVine, I'm happy, right? That's cool with me.
Yeah.
And Wiggins, and keep Wiggins.
I mean, the thing is, like, they, you get him for 1 year, he becomes a free agent, you get his bird rights, so you would have to pay that out. Yeah, it's an interesting dilemma. That would also leave you the room to slow play Clay, right? Like, okay,
right, exactly.
20 minutes a night, right? And then we're going to ramp you up.
Yeah.
Okay. So
is that it?
Like,
is that it?
Yeah. Well, that's the list of names. Now,
okay.
The chances of any of these happening, what do you think? Would you pick any of these happening, or like the quote unquote the field happening in terms of a trade? Like it's somebody who we've not mentioned.
I'll just really run through it. Paul George, I don't see happening because I don't think the Clippers are going to move him. Ben Simmons, I don't think the Warriors will give up what Philly wants to get him because I don't think they realize it. I think they realize it's not worth it. Bradley Beal, I think the Warriors would make a trade for him, but would the Warriors have enough? Would they have more than somebody else? And right now, it just seems like Bradley Beal is fine staying in Washington. I mean, hell, they made it further than the Warriors did, technically.
Eastern Conference. So.
Exactly. But Pascal Siakam, you know how I feel about that. We've talked about that for a couple weeks now, and I definitely don't want them to make that trade. I don't think they will make that trade. I think they realize that's probably given up too much. Dame, I don't think they make that trade. Zach LaVine, I don't think that's really on the table. I don't know who else.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who else.
Who else is disgruntled?
Yeah,
who becomes dislodged during the off season.
But that's the thing, right? Like a lot of these players weren't even necessarily on the table before the playoffs started. So that's always one of the interesting things about the NBA. Now there's a couple last options. So there was the Bobby Marks hypothetical. The Pistons could not turn this hypothetical trade down. I think it was the Wiseman and the 7 and 14 for number 1, which I'm like, of course they can turn that down. How could they not? Like that seemed like a no brainer to turn it down.
Yeah.
But Bob, do you want to trade up somehow? Like what do you? I don't see a path forward, but
yeah, I don't see a path forward either, and I don't know the context of that. I saw that quote as well. I, as Bob Myers, would 100% make that deal. Are you kidding me?
Yes, I would too.
Like that's a gimme. Like, sure, right? You have maybe in a few years, it's like, oh, who turns out better, Cade Cunningham or Wiseman, Bouknight, Zaire Williams? Just off the top, the people that I want to pick in the draft. And argument could be made that those three dudes, aggregate or one of them individually, is better than Cade Cunningham.
Yeah.
Right? But the ability to bring Cade Cunningham into the Warriors system right now and foster his development as far along as he already is, I think that would be honestly like an amazing scenario for him to become the best Cade Cunningham NBA player he could be. Yeah. And I personally would just love to see that just as a basketball fan, because we always talk about how, especially with someone like James Wiseman, not just because he's a Warriors player, but like if he really is this gifted and athletic and has these skills that need to be polished, you want to see these basketball unicorns reach their potential because you just want to see it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I want to see how really good he could be because we've seen a ton of guys who have talent that just flame out, get injured or whatever. So you just want to see people be their best selves as basketball players. And I think like obviously having him on the Warriors be great for us as fans, but I think that would be awesome to see. On the other side for Detroit, obviously they would want more, but I think if they ended up with a young core of Killian Hayes, Isaiah Stewart, Sadiq Bey, James Wiseman, Book Knight, and Zaire Williams, or whoever else you want to pick with the 14th, that's also not bad, to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
Just where they are in the rebuilding process, but obviously they could get more from someone else.
Yeah, I think so. They could get more, and it's like a trust the process kind of like a lot of darts at the board, and one
Mm-hmm.
of them will hit, or you just need one or two of them to hit. I don't see it happening,
No,
though. You know me, I love Isaiah Stewart, so as long as we get Isaiah Stewart back in that deal too, I'll definitely do it. Okay, Bob, you're off the hook. Now we'll bring Patrick back in. Where the last option is standing pat, draft these players, and you sign some free agents. Like what would you do? Like in this, like this is a scenario, like what would you do? And then out of all of these that we've talked about, what's your preferred path?
my preferred path is honestly to take the two picks, draft the 7-14, stick with Wiseman, and then pick up some free agents. That's what I would do. If Beal or LaVine become available for those scenarios, I would much rather do the LaVine deal that we're
Yeah, I
talking
would
about
too. Yeah,
because we keep Wiggins and Wiseman. That might just be super fanciful,
yeah.
but
It seems like a video game trade, to be honest.
yeah. uh, and Bradley Beal, like again, it would be good for the Warriors in the short term, but I really, 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 and I've said this for months, even before last season's trade deadline, I was like, don't trade Wiseman for Beal, and I
Yeah,
still don't want to do that. So
yeah,
I would stand pat, and I definitely would see how these players, these picks turn out, and if it doesn't work out, there's a trade deadline. There's unhappy vets. There's teams that want to tank, and you could make deals. You could make deals. You could move Wiseman then. You could move whoever you draft for these picks then. If Kaminga falls to 7, take calls on that. You know,
I,
so
yeah.
yeah, and it's also just because I love like unknown, draft talent, and that stuff is really really like the best one of the best parts of fandom.
I feel like this is the most likely path that's going to happen. I don't think they're going to make these big trades. At the same time, there is something to be said for having high end talent, high end shot creator outside of Steph. And even Steph, I mean, he can create his own shot and he's gotten better and better at it. But it's like they do need somebody else. And they don't have it right now. And I don't think they're gonna get it at 7-14.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how they're gonna reconcile that. Poole might be enough of that in a second unit kind of way, like you're seeing like Cameron Payne or something on the Suns is shot
Mm-hmm.
creator off the bench, and that is really helpful. And you saw how dynamic he was in those Memphis games. But man, I don't know. I it part of me feels like they have enough that standing pat and this is the right path to go and sign some veteran free agents, improve the overall depth and talent. I do think that's the best, most prudent way to go. But there is something that just nagging at me a little bit about like they don't have the high end talent as it stands right
Right.
now. And
Yeah.
but I'm also like, I'm not that keen on Bradley Beal. Maybe with a mid-level exception, they can get somebody play on the wing who's a high-level defender, because you trade for him, that's your wing depth, which you would have filled out with Wiggins, obviously, and then also maybe probably 7 and 14. So
Hmm.
that's what gives me a little bit of pause of that. Yeah, the LaVine thing is a video game trade, but if it happens, like, we're gonna replay this episode. But
Oh yeah,
repost it.
I'm clipping that one if it
Yeah,
happens.
exactly. Um, so yeah, I think they're gonna stand pat, because I also think that Lacob wants to prove that they have the organizational depth and the organizational mindset to make this happen. Also, it's probably a financial thing too. He's talked a lot about the luxury tax. They want to have sustained success so they can pay off that building, that $2 billion
Hmm.
building or whatever. So I don't think it makes sense to go all in. And I don't know that they feel indebted to the old core, even if maybe they should, since their valuation went up, however 100 times over. So yeah, I think draft some players, and like you said, you can develop them, and they still retain some value. I think around this time there's so much trade chatter because teams would like to have their own pick at the draft. If you had these assets, then they would like to pick the players that they want. But if Kaminga fell, put him in the G League for a while, let him dominate down there. It's going to be
Yeah.
a lot of value.
Yeah. Yeah. If
So
Kaminga fell, just okay, throw my draft board out the window. Take Kaminga at 7. Take Davion Mitchell at 14. Shut everybody up, right? All the win now people. There's your win now guy, right? Like there's your win now, and move on from there. I tend to agree. Like it's interesting to think about how they would be operating if, obviously, a huge if, the pandemic didn't kind of hurt their bottom line so much. I mean, it hurt everybody's,
yeah,
but in terms of spending and paying off the building and all this other stuff. But I tend to agree that they want to go, they're trying to keep everybody happy while ultimately any organization wants sustained success, right? And then I'm sure they want the championship, but they might not want it like in the percentages of 0 to 100. Like they might not want it as badly as Steph, Draymond, and Clay. Like they're like,
yeah,
yeah, 100, right? They have no ownership in the team and what they do 5 years after they retire. Whereas like Lacob and the front office might be like, yeah, we really, really want a championship. But in their heart of hearts, if you just got down in there, not that they're lying, but they see it as like, we have to also think about the future beyond this. And I don't know what the roster construction would be if you get these 2 picks. Do they jettison? I mean, it feels like they're going to get off of Smilegate as soon as possible.
please.
And Nico Mannion, I still think he's worth keeping and developing. He's playing great for Italy, and he's playing the Olympics. If he shows out in the Olympics, bring him into Summer League and let him dominate. I feel like I just need to know more about who the free agents are, right, and how much
Yeah.
they can actually afford or get. Like, would you, hey, if you could fill out with like Warriors killer Will Barton, that would be amazing, right? But how do you get him on the roster? How do you get Alex Caruso on the roster?
Oh dear.
So, uh, and then there's just dudes you can't get who are just going to be way too
Yeah.
expensive.
It's a tough one, and maybe we can save the free agents for right after the draft. But it is going to be an interesting roster crunch because they do have some guys that I think are still worth trying to make it work a little bit with Eric Pascal. Damian Lee, all caps, has been really reliable. So, these are guys that can help you get through the season, but they're just not that high end
Yeah.
that will get you through the playoffs. I mean, you're seeing in the finals, and we know this, we've seen it before too, is there's just dudes who become unplayable in the playoffs, and that's the gauntlet.
Yeah, we've seen that for the Warriors many, many times.
Yeah. So who can we get? And that's where Bob's got to make his money.
Right. I mean, look at who they are. Let's just quickly run through the roster, right? It's Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond, Looney, Wiseman, JTA, Damian Lee. He's a free agent. Some
I think they have like an option on him. So like if like they could cut Lee for like no repercussions, but
okay.
they basically have him.
Well, then Poole, right?
Yeah.
And then so that's 9 guys, and you still have Nico Mannion, who could still be in the G League next year, right? You
I
get rid of
mean,
Smiley Gage, and then you have what Mulder.
they also have like some kind of contract hold on him, like non-guaranteed.
I kept saying all last season that their whole bench was a bunch of dudes who spent time in the G League. And don't get me wrong, like the G League is not like how it used to be, like when it was like the D League, which is just like a league of guys who you don't really have good odds. Now it's more of like a seasoning minor leagues type thing, right? So there's no shame involved. But like it points to what you were saying. There's a dearth of that high end talent, right? Like if you're really competing for a title, maybe on Kerr's roster you will play Michael Mulder, you know. But when you tighten up the bench, who are those other dudes? And I agree, like, and this is why I want Book Night, not because I think he could do this next season, but just in general. Well, maybe not in the playoffs, but maybe during the regular season a little bit. He can give you some shot creation. He can
Yeah.
put the other team in foul trouble. You see what he does, and he does things that the Warriors haven't had in so long. And you see him, they haven't had a guy who could just go get a bucket at the rim just like that, except for KD. Like that was always one of their problems. If they weren't hitting their threes, how are we going to get a shot?
Yep.
And Clay is not good at getting to the free throw line. Wiggins is not. Steph should be, but he doesn't get the calls. He doesn't argue for them. So you need that guy who can create the shot, put the other team in foul trouble, get you in the bonus sooner, all those things, you know, and
Yep.
that I think is something super, super helpful. And if you can't get it in a free agency, then, you know, best hope that someone like Book Knight can do that in the regular season and develop quickly enough to give you some spot minutes in the playoffs, right? Instead of like Michael Mulder or even,
Yeah.
no offense, all caps, Damian Lee.
Well, as much as I like Damian Lee and I like Michael Mulder too, I think he could help you get through the season. You know, you think about Bob Myers after the season said like we're going to need to add some veterans, and you know, if we have you know, 2 picks on the roster, Michael Mulder or Mannion, and then you have 2 free agents, that's 15 players and you can't play them all. So it means that some of these players are going to be gone. It might be Mulder, it might be Lee, might
Pascal.
be Pascal, you know, like you trade him for a conditional second round pick or cash or something like that. So I think this is all, there's going to be some changes, and they only, if you're going the free agent route, then there's only a couple ways that they can get somebody, right? It's the vet minimum, it's the taxpayer mid-level, which is not as competitive as the full mid-level. And so is it going to be that, like, what are they going to spend their money on, right? Is it going to be on the shot creator? Is it going to be on a stretch big, like they mentioned, another shooter? I guess we'll see.
Which is why it's so difficult, right? Because you have limited spots, and then are you going to bring 2 more rookies onto that? Me personally, I keep saying yes, but then when you look at roster construction and then rolling all those guys out next season, will there be enough dudes? If they had, obviously, like a David West, an Iguodala, a Sean Livingston at the top end of their bench instead of uh, JTA, as much as I love that dude, um, Damian Lee, Eric Pascal. I mean, Eric
and
Pascal's way
Poole.
at the end
Yeah,
at this point, but yeah, Poole. So Poole could be that guy, and hopefully he is sooner rather than later. But yeah, it really is a difficult task to put together a roster that can do both. You know, I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting because I always vote for drafting and building from the ground up. But if you can get somebody and it makes sense, then
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see. Like I'm super like this is such a fascinating time because during the dynasty, obviously, it was like, okay, who are we gonna get here? Who wants to come to the Warriors? Like, hey, come on, like, hey, Zaza, why don't you, like, give you like, a sack lunch as your salary, and now it's like, who can you convince in terms of ring chasers because there's way more parity, obviously,
yep,
than there was 3 years
yep,
ago, and way more than last year.
yep,
So it'll be kind of fun to see how the Warriors battle, and at least you never want to see anyone get injured, but at least you can pretty much write off the Clippers unless they do something crazy in
yeah.
terms of like being at the top four of the Western Conference.
Honestly, personally, I think that next year is not the title year. I think it's the next year where maybe Wiseman has made the DeAndre Ayton progression. Poole is like a really great six man. Clay has a full year all the way back. And then one of these picks hits. And then you have this like really multi-generational team, and Steph is still good. And Clay can still,
Yeah.
hit threes and mid rangers. So, and Wiggins is first team all NBA. No, just kidding.
and
He's got
Wiggins
room to
is
grow.
and Wiggins is going to come off that contract eventually, and then hopefully sign for like I don't know 20 mil or something. Yeah, I can definitely see that scenario. Good luck putting that on the marketing materials. It's really about next season because all this season I was like, it's about next season, and I think they've fully admitted that's kind of how they were looking at it too, to some extent. And now it is that next season. So
Hey, wait until
uh,
next year, right? That we all know that as sports fans, right?
yeah, yeah. Real quick, have you changed? Say the Warriors stick with 7-14. Who do you want right now?
Oh, okay.
Has it changed since last time?
Right now, I'm kind of interested in Usman Garuba
Why? You
because
just want the
okay,
guys like can
no, no,
set
no,
solid
no,
screens?
no, 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 no. I mean, his defensive highlights are incredible, and I know I'm just watching highlights. Everybody looks amazing in highlights, but just in terms of how people have talked about him, NBA caliber defender, ready right now. Um, on that end, plays for one of the best teams in Europe. But it was what you just said, the screen setting ability. I heard another person talking about how well he sets screens, and that's what we're all about, right? If you can defend and set screens, like it could he be a more athletic Looney? How many times has Looney gotten an open look or uh it might be a contested layup, but he can't jump, so it's pump fake, pass it out. But what if he could just rise up and dunk it? Like that's a
Yeah.
useful player.
How?
So
What's this guy's
so and
offense like?
it's not. It's basically maybe some fill the lane on the break. Some
Yeah.
rolling and
Okay.
you know
Okay.
dunker spot kind of stuff. But he's 18 or 19 or whatever. So if he
Hmm.
already knows how to play defense, he already knows how to set screens and roll. That's a really strong base to start from. At 14, that's
Hmm.
also not bad. And he's kind of like a 3-4 small ball five. So
Yeah.
there's some versatility there
Okay.
against big wings,
Yeah.
uh, right?
And who's your seven? Still the
Oh
same,
God,
Giddy Book Night.
I mean, it's Jonathan Kuminga if he drops.
It's Cade Cunningham if he drops.
I think I'll still stick with the Book Night Giddy combo just because they both of them provide offense and they need that.
Mm-hmm.
It's different types of offense. Like Giddy's a ball mover, Book Knight's a bucket getter. They need both of that. I'm not like against Mitchell at all. I just wish he was taller. Seeing how well he plays on the ball, that's really useful against a lot of the scoring guards in the
Do you think he'll
West.
last till 14?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think the Pelicans might take him
I
if
think
he's
so too.
there,
Yeah.
because you look at all the teams and how many of them are rebuilding in the late lottery. There's still some, and so they'd want like younger, high upside talent. But there are some teams like the Pelicans that would want somebody who can fill that need so Zion doesn't leave,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And develop that chemistry, because he definitely could do that. But yeah, there's a part of me that's like, okay, forget Mitchell, and I've said this before. We'll see how it goes. But right now, I think I'm still with Book Knight and Zaire Williams. Those are my guys still. I watched a little bit more Giddy after you put him at your 7 spot, and I actually like him. I agree too. When I think about the offense on the Warriors and what it's always been like, they don't have the guy who can get his own shot, like we talked about, the guy who can get to the free throw line, who can create his own shot anywhere on the court at any given time when the shot clock's running down and you need a bucket. And we don't have the guy who can initiate either, because Clay is not great at it. I mean, Draymond and Steph can do it. Wiggins isn't great at it. Poole is supposedly good at it, but I haven't seen him. He's not great at it yet. He could evolve into that. But having somebody like Giddy, who basically can, at least in terms of passing and initiating, not that he's anywhere close to the kind of player Iguodala was, or two totally different types of players, but just having, what he and Livingston could do in that respect. So yeah, hey man, if they take Book Knight and Giddy, which ain't gonna happen because I don't think either of those will be around to 14, I wouldn't mind that either.
I mean, I look at Giddy. He played really well in the pre-Olympics game against Nigeria. He had shot really well. I think somebody who moves the ball like that, think about how much easier he could make Wiseman's life.
Yes.
Right? And
yes.
And Wiseman is so important to this team's future. And he would also make life easier on our shooters, right? Especially as they age.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Before last draft, I thought, well, maybe their play is going to be to draft LaMelo, for the Warriors to draft him. And the idea, this is before Clay got injured, of course, would be like he would be the point guard as Clay and Steph transitioned into literally just running off ball nonstop late career,
Yeah.
And he could just find them nonstop and then whatever. And I mean, that could be Giddy to some extent. I would hate to give up on the 6'2" Nico Mannion, the Sean Penn of the NBA, Spicoli. But yeah, like after talking to you and watching more clips, I was like, I could do Giddy and Zaire. But after talking to you now, I would not mind. I would almost love Book Knight and Giddy.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that the odds of both of them or one of them making it to number 14 is not great.
Well, you never know from that 7 onward spot. I mean, that's what makes the Warriors situation so interesting. It's like it's eye of the beholder stuff at that point.
Yeah.
So you never know. It'll be interesting to see who they invite to the green room. I think they already did do their first round.
They did some definites, and then there's a pool of people that they're going to pick like 5 of them from or something.
Yeah.
And that pool of 5, it's like, good luck. Like, who's dropping? Who's going to be Aaron Rodgers?
hey, 10 days to Warriors Christmas. So counting down the days.
Whoa. And what am I going to do?
Free agents.
The universe ends after the draft. All right. Well, that is another episode of the Oakland Warriors podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter at Oakland Warriors. Check us out at oaklandwarriors.com. Be sure to tell your fellow Warrior fan friends to tune in and listen. The Oakland Warriors podcast is produced by National Football Society. That's it.
Music in this episode provided by Paper Sun. Special thanks to Paul Amardo for production support. See you next time.